Hello.
Hello, hello.
How are you this evening? I have to apologize. Earlier I said Denise, but I meant Leanne.
No, Denise is my wife.
Oh, Denise?
Yeah, Leanne is Todd's wife.
Oh my God, you guys.
Yeah, remember you had Todd and Leanne on last week.
So I was right. Okay.
Yes.
I was like, oh my God. You know, like, because I know you guys are real close. You know what I mean? So I got a little confused there. My bad.
Yeah, she's my sister. That's right. Or brother.
They were great.
Depending on what life you're talking
Thank you so much for joining in on that discussion. That was awesome. That's another great place that they have. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Watch the show last week. However, I am joined here tonight with Ernie Pack. If you don't know him, he runs or correct me if I'm wrong, but you run Fort Duffield. And we're going to learn about Fort Duffield tonight. This is going to be, I'm going to be learning along with everybody else. So I want to shut up so you can start talking. Just kind of give us a little background about you, and then just kind of get into how you got into the paranormal. And I know you have some pictures you want to share, so I'm excited about that too. I like that kind of stuff. So let's dive in.
All right. Well, I grew up in a family with a grandmother who was part Cherokee Indian, and she was a very spiritual person, believed very much in the spirit world. We had a lot of activity as a child. In my home growing up as a kid, there was a lot of activity, and she was always talking about relatives coming to visit that had been dead for years. And so I never didn't believe, if that makes any sense at all.
Absolutely.
It just seemed like a natural thing to me. And I think that's very important. We can talk about that aspect later, but I think that's very important for any of us, is to have that open mind and believe that this stuff is real. But I grew up about 2.5 miles from Waverly Hills. And as a kid, we always just called it the castle on the hill, because the trees were a lot shorter back then. I'm an old guy. Back then, the trees in front of Waverly were a lot shorter, and you could see it from the highway.
So you grew up in that area?
Yes.
You grew up around that? Okay.
Yeah. It closed in 81 and immediately became a place for teenagers to sneak into.
Right.
Those kids started sneaking into Waverly and had some unbelievable experiences there. When the Mattingleys bought the building in 2001 and started cleaning it up and started doing tours there, I would go up and take the tours. I would go on the public investigations. Just became fascinated with that place. And I would ask Tina, the owner, every time I was there if she needed any help. She never did. One day she said, well, we need help in the haunted house this year. I said, I'm in. I'll do it. Whatever it takes. So I got my foot in the door by being a zombie cop.
Yes.
Haunted house. And I had a really vicious dog that would jump out at everybody when I stepped on a pressure pad. But anyway, once I got in there for the haunted house, well, when the haunted house season ended, they needed people to stay on and help because they decided to open up a few private overnights. the rest of the year, which normally they don't do that. And so I stayed on and was helping out with those private overnights, and then just kind of never went away permanently. I would take hiatuses due to work or whatever where I couldn't be there, but came back. And in 2019, I happened to be hosting a private overnight on June 20th of 2019 for a woman that came up with her daughters and some friends from Tennessee. And I was their host, and I was giving the walkthrough and talking about the various stories. I got to the 5th floor. If you know anything about Waverly Hills, there's a story of a nurse who was found hanging outside of room 502. And the story that's been told over the years never made sense to me, but it was the script that we told. So I told that story. And I stopped and I said, but I don't think that's what really happened. If you guys would like to do stop, I'll tell you what I think happened.
What the heck was that?
I don't know. That was creepy.
What was that? What was that?
It was like somebody going, shh.
Yeah, or something. That has been happening on my lives lately. Like I don't know what it is.
Okay.
Like not that in particular, but one live, like everybody heard a woman kind of like whisper something, and then like that was. It sounded like, oh yeah, Leanne said it sounded like
a faucet turning on. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't have a sink in this room anywhere.
That was weird. It was. I heard it coming through the speaker. It wasn't in the room here.
Yeah, no, yeah.
In the most haunted house in Kentucky, which we'll talk about later.
but it was like muffling. I couldn't hear you real well.
Yeah. It was almost like someone was shushing me, to be honest.
I'll have to go back and listen to that.
Yeah, that was crazy.
That's happened on like 3 shows. That's happened on like 3 or 4 shows now. You know, it's not very. It doesn't happen like that'll. I don't know. That's weird. Anyway.
Yeah, that was cool.
Let's move on.
Hello, Andrew. Hello, everybody over in the chat. I see my lovely wife in the chat. And
yes.
Everybody else. Court's in here.
Oh, hey, Cindy.
So I'm telling the story that I think really happened to the nurse outside of room 502.
Okay.
And as I'm telling the story, I'm looking over, and this mother with her children, or they're not children, they're young women, her daughters. And anyway, she's sitting there grinning and nodding like she knows what I'm going to say before I said it. So I pulled her aside, and I at the end of the tour, and I said, you knew Sarah's story before I told you Sarah's story. And she explained to me that she'd been coming there since 2009 for like the last 10 years, a couple times a year, a lot of times. And she was drawn to that story too. And she had been doing her own research, and she had gotten the same story that I had gotten. And so her and I started talking a lot and trying to investigate to dig up more of Sarah's story and spending a lot more time. She was living in Hendersonville, Tennessee. Of course, I was here or up there in Louisville, Kentucky. And eventually everyone else saw us as a couple, which we kept saying we were just friends. Anyway, now we're married. That's nice.
Ironic.
Yeah. And we both got these 502 tattoos for room 502 at Waverly Hills.
That's awesome.
Because that's what brought us together. It's all Sarah's fault. That little nurse who was found hanging outside of room 502.
I got to give a shout out. This is my little sister. So I just want to say hey to her. Hey, baby.
Cool.
Watching.
Cool.
Go ahead.
So anyway.
I do want to compliment you on your history digging, because that's become a big thing lately with, like, you know, a lot of locations that are popping up, you know, where you're finding that their history isn't matching up to what the stories they're telling, you know. And yes, there are legends out there. There's with every place, right?
Exactly.
But you're trying to find as much history as you can and validate as much as you can, which, you know, says a lot about you, says a lot about what you're doing this for. It's not just for money.
No.
because you care about the reputation of the location, you care about the history, which is a big thing for me.
Yeah.
The history, I always say that the history and the haunts have to come together. I love
Exactly.
when the history and the haunts come together. So
Exactly.
I'll shut up. Go ahead.
Oh, you're fine. A lot of locations. I mean, we can just go down that path for now if you want to. A lot of locations that I know of, that especially the commercial locations that sell overnights for $1,000, $1,500 a night, they seem to. And I'm not knocking anybody for how they do business at all.
Right.
But if a story is scary, whether it's historically accurate or not, that's what they go with.
Right.
And they want the place to be scary. And for me, the paranormal has never been scary. It's been
Me
fascinating. It's been a dive into history and, times gone by, and hearing the stories of people that lived 100, 200 years ago, whatever.
100%.
And that's what it's always been about for me. And so, Denise and I shared that same passion, and we became, hello, Beth. I see you over there. I mean, we just kept digging and digging, and then Sarah brought us together. Eventually, we decided we had to have a paranormal team because we were getting ready to be on a live stream, like a 12-hour live stream. And the host of the live stream said, well, what's the name of your paranormal team? And we were like, we're not a paranormal team. We're just a couple of people. But we sat down together, and I said, well, my nickname's always been Pac-Man. What did Pac-Man do? He chased ghosts. So let's call it Pac-Man Paranormal. But we'll spell it Packman. So
Yep.
with Nintendo or whoever the heck it would be. I don't know. So that's what we
Although ironic, the little guys in there look like little ghosties.
Yeah, they're little ghosts. That's what I'm saying. I mean, Pac-Man always chased ghosts.
Yeah.
So there you go. But
yeah,
we have been together now as a paranormal team since 2020. Both of us have been paranormal investigators basically our whole lives, though. So we've got, you put her age together and my age together, you've got close to 40 years of paranormal experience.
That's great.
Okay, 100, make it over 100. But anyway, we have since investigated dozens, if not 100 or more locations together. And we've bonded with some family in the paranormal that Todd, Leanne, Beth, Denise, and myself, all of us together, we try to get together and investigate as much as possible. I saw T-Dog in here. He's like family.
Yeah, Tim, I love Tim. Yeah.
I mean, we got a big circle of friends that we investigate with every chance we get. And whenever we're all together, I mean, we all share that same passion for the truth, for one.
That's awesome.
And not dramatizing or exaggerating anything, and telling the stories of the spirits.
Yep. You're keeping the history alive in it, and that's the most important thing. It's for us, our history, no matter what.
Exactly. I mean, learn from it. It happened, whether it's good history or bad history, it happened, and we can learn from it and move forward better.
Well, and I think, I mean, I'm a nobody, but I think when I'm gone, hopefully I'm haunting somewhere and people figure out who I am and what I did. You know what I mean?
Right.
And things that I did. I would love for that to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, who wouldn't want to be, making, I mean, in the afterlife, I'll still be like,
it'll make a difference.
Stirring things up. And I tell my friends all the time, I'm like, look, if I die before you, just come to the Eisenhower farmhouse in Gettysburg. I'll be there and I'll make sure to give y'all the best evidence.
Exactly.
But go ahead. Sorry.
So, Denise and I wound up getting married a couple years later, or a little over a year later. And we started looking for a house a little over a year ago. We found a place in Bardstown, Kentucky that we thought we were going to get. And it was a historic home and really nice. And that deal fell through. And we were like, well, Maybe there's something better in store for us. Who knows? Well, I'm laying in bed one night at 3 in the morning. My psychopathic wife, who never sleeps, grabs me and says, "We need this house," just like that. And I'm like, "What?" And she had been searching on Zillow on her phone, and a house called the Ditto House Inn pops up, and it says, "For history buffs, you'll love this former Civil War hospital built in 1841." And I was like, okay. But this was a Saturday night. I knew I wouldn't be able to get in touch with a realtor till Monday morning, but she's like, "You got to call him in the morning." I said, it'll be a Sunday. I'll call him on Monday. She said, "You're calling him in the morning." I said, "Okay, I'll leave a message with him." Well, I called him in the morning at 9 o'clock. He answered the phone.
It's fate.
And we were in the house by noon that Sunday. We walked 10 steps into the door. We looked at each other, looked at the realtor, said, "We'll take it." And he said, "Well, it's 3,700 square feet. Don't you want to see the rest?" And I was like, "Yeah, we want to see the rest, but we'll take it." So we wound up buying it. A lot about it. So Denise decides to research the Ditto House Inn. You Google Ditto House Inn. First result that pops up on Google is 6 reasons why the Ditto House Inn is Kentucky's most haunted house.
Wow.
And we're like, bonus, high five.
Yeah.
So, we wound up here in West Point, Kentucky. And I knew that there was Fort Duffield up on the hill overlooking town. That was a Civil War fort. I didn't know if you could do paranormal investigations there. So I went down to check at the local history museum if they knew anything about it. There was a guy that was doing paranormal investigations up there, but they were basically like public events where, you give him like $25, you go up there and investigate with him.
Mm-hmm.
But you could not get it privately. And we wanted to get it privately. And I thought that others might want to get it privately too. So to make a long story short, I wound up going to the mayor of town and the people that run the Fort Duffield volunteer group and giving them a proposal to start doing private overnights and other events up at the fort. And they thought it was a great idea. And we wound up signing a contract. And last summer got Fort Duffield open to the public for public investigation or private investigations even. And we didn't even know if it was haunted yet because we hadn't done a full-on investigation, But having been to Gettysburg and several other Civil War sites, not been to any Civil War site that didn't have paranormal activity.
Right.
Honestly,
Fort Mifflin is 15 minutes from me. I love Fort Mifflin. That's any type of place like that holds. There's so much emotion and so much surrounding, even the ones that didn't see battle, even.
Right. Never saw battle.
Yeah, and
there were 60 deaths up there.
Yeah. So even those that haven't seen, battle or anything like that still hold. I feel like the land and how they're built and what happened there.
The emotion. Like Fort Duffield was manned by what they called the Home Guard back in those days. And those were mostly teenagers that were not expecting to ever see battle. They were from Michigan and Indiana and Illinois, up north. They get sent to a southern sympathizing town in a neutral state. But believe me, West Point was a southern town.
Sure.
And where they're not wanted, they're considered the enemy. And then they're sent to defend Sherman's main supply point as his army started to march south. And they were scared to death.
I bet.
Well, there were a lot of them that died from illness. A lot died in accidents, like just stupid accidents. One guy drowned in the cistern. Another guy was walking down the hill, slipped and fell. His rifle discharged and killed the guy behind him.
Do you think they were really accidents?
Well,
you know what I mean? Going to a place where they were not wanted.
Right.
And that could be part of the reason it is active, because maybe, they want their story told, that no, this wasn't because,
Not what happened. Yeah. Well,
you know
we're going to dig on that. Believe me, because if you know how well, I mean, just based on what we discovered with Sarah's story, I mean, we will dig and dig and dig, and we'll use paranormal evidence, actual historical data,
right.
whatever we can find,
Yeah.
to piece this story together. Because there's a lot about Fort Duffield that's kind of a mystery. Because the fort had several different names over the years. At one point, it was called Fort.There, just different things, and so we're going to look into all of that. But
You know, and that's the thing too. There's a huge misconception. I don't know what Courtney's sharing something.
I don't know what that is.
I don't know either. She'll tell me. It wasn't anything bad, but I'm sure I don't know what she's trying to share. Sorry, Court. Um, but it's probably either your page or something like that.
Yeah, it might be.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Oh, there's a huge misconception. Like, I'm learning, the more locations I talk to, the more history I'm doing, the more, because I love history. I love historic places. I love places that have meaty history. But the more I'm finding is, we think like they used to write everything down, and they didn't.
Most people were illiterate, to be honest.
Yeah, so there's a misconception that they documented everything and things can be found so easily. And why isn't this being found? And why isn't that being found? Well, I'm learning that writing things down wasn't a big thing.
No.
Or
No.
they didn't do that then, So some people may be buried in yards where you don't even know they're buried because you never knew they died because you didn't know they were alive.
Right. Yeah, it gets tough once you get back into the 1800s, especially. Finding documented history of anything gets really tough. I mean, it takes a lot of digging, but we're going to do what we can do. I mean, there's a lot of information here in this town about this town still, because there were people that what you got there?
Denise, she said there was a lot of illness because their toilet was uphill from their drinking water.
Yeah, they drank from a spring that was in the hills. The fort was on top of the hill. They drank from a spring that was over the hill. So there was a lot of typhoid and dysentery and wasting disease that happened. And like I say, we know of about 60 deaths up there. I mean, that number it fluctuates based on what.
Do you know if anybody was ever buried on the property?
Yes, there's a mass grave up there that 36 bodies have been disinterred from the mass grave.
Really?
I believe that there's at least 12 bodies still there in the mass grave.
When did they get them out of there? Because I feel like Hinsdale found out they had I think they found 11 or 12 graves, but they're not touching them because of some reason. I don't know what the reason is. I don't know if the laws are different.
These were soldiers whose families came.
You're saying back in the day they were. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I misunderstood you. I apologize.
No, that's okay. They and their bodies are now at the New Albany Civil War Cemetery in New Albany, Indiana. But they were, like I say, it was the 9th Michigan for the most part. Everyone was part of the 9th Michigan Infantry that passed away. And like I say, there's still at least 12 bodies up there in the mass grave. According to
you still have it, yeah.
According to
and that's a shame. That means that nobody came and
claimed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hello, Joanne. Hello, everybody over there that's just tuning in.
So now you're trying to find out, I guess. Have you used that sonar radar up there?
Billy Wilkerson, who runs the Old Stone Jail in Franklin, Kentucky, works for the historical society down there, and they have a ground penetrating radar.
Hmm.
We're going to get him up here with the ground penetrating radar and see if he can find anything. There was a study done by the University of Kentucky around 2012, and that was how they discovered the mass grave and the numbers that they had. But I don't know if Billy might have some more up-to-date ground penetrating radar that might do a little bit better or what, but he's done some amazing work here over the last couple of years with that in finding graves. So we're going to try to get him up there. Todd and Leanne had him down at the Bell Witch Cave, and he found several graves down there.
Yeah. That's just so cool. I mean, you think with all the technology we have today, we would have something where like you could point it at the ground or do however it works, the ground, penetrating. And wouldn't it be cool, like if you see like the uniform, but then like you see the last name, the tag still there, so you can see the last name, so you don't have to disturb them. You can just see everything. Like you see the U.S. belt, and like you see.
Right.
I mean, that would be so cool.
It would be. It would be. Now, I don't know that Civil War uniforms back then had a name tag on them, to be honest, but it would
That's
be
true.
cool.
Yeah, they wouldn't, right? They would have like something in their pocket or.
They would have to write things down and keep in their pockets.
Yeah, that's right.
They didn't even have dog tags at that point.
No, it would be like or like carved in something like one of their things, maybe.
Yeah, carved in a flask. A lot of times is how it was.
Wow, 67 Native American graves were found at the historic. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Are there graves on your land you bought? She said, sorry, I missed this. So she's asking. Yes, that's what we were just talking. No, not on the land you bought, right?
The land we bought here at the Ditto House Inn, we've been told that there was at one point a pauper's cemetery on the property, but haven't been able to confirm that. But we're going to get Billy up here with his ground penetrating radar and check on it. It's going to happen.
That would be cool. Now, so here's a thought. Do you think, let's just say scenario, right? You do have graves and you find these graves and stuff like that, whatever. Like, and then and this is years we're talking here, right? But like you start to discover, okay, it's this one, that. Like, do you think that once you discover them and once you kind of tell a story that they might move on and not be there anymore?
I don't know. I got a lot of theories on. Cemeteries are haunted for various reasons. Graveyards, grave sites are haunted for various reasons. I always ask people when they talk about crossing people over or people moving on, where are they moving to? They've got the ultimate freedom to be anywhere in the universe they choose to be. They are where they are because they choose to be there.
Right.
For whatever reason.
I agree. You just hear of those like, instances where, there's somebody, we had an example, real quick one I'll give you. We did an investigation in Pennsylvania at Bird Mansion. We were the first ones to do the investigation. On the way there, my friend Sabrina, she's like, oh, I kept, she's like talking about this woman and she was like loud in her head and da-da-da. A lot of the questions, later on in the investigation, we were kind of like, talking to this woman. The historian figured out who she was. So then we had a name. This is what she wants. And she wanted to be recognized at this community center. So they put a plaque up for her. And now when we go there, we don't get any interaction with. Yeah. So, which is sad because she was so.
But she's still somewhere.
Yeah.
You know
absolutely.
What I mean?
Yes. I agree. Yep.
Spirit in general, they are there because that energy does not go away. And that energy, even though she might be at peace and not have any reason to try to communicate with people at that community center anymore, she's still got some place that she chooses to be, and she's there.
Yeah, I believe even though she would come back.
Yeah,
they love they love places that, like you said, I believe they are where they are for a reason, right? They're connected to the land, to the house, to a person, to whatever.
to a
You know,
memory from there, whatever.
yeah. So like I believe though that because of that connection or that, that feeling or whatever, they will come back. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And check on the place. You know what I mean? And this and that. So
Yeah.
I think that's, that was awesome. Jing is checking in from Indonesia. Just want to give her a shout out. She is awesome.
Hello. Welcome. Thanks for tuning in.
Yes, absolutely. Um, Let me see. So Denise said we calmed the spirit at
Waverly Hills.
Hills. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. I think they can still stay too. That was just an example. I mean, I think
he's talking about, that's a really cool story. I'm sorry, but that's a really cool story.
Yeah.
There was a spirit at Waverly that a television show had told there was activity on the fourth floor that was negative. People were getting scratched, doors were slamming, they were hearing screams. It was, very scary around this particular area. And there was a television show that went in there and they dug up, they determined who they thought the spirit might be, and they told a story about him and his wife that was partially true, but they only had a couple of days. These TV shows, they only got a couple of days to dig into the research on this stuff. They only had a couple of days to dig. Well, Denise dug for a long time on that guy, found out the true story about what had really happened. She printed out the names of all of his children and grandchildren and where they were born, what they did in life and everything. She went up there by herself, sat down on the floor in his room, and just started reading all that stuff off. Okay.
Yeah.
From that point on, that area of the fourth floor did not have that negative energy. There was no doors slamming, no screaming, no people getting pushed or scratched or anything like that. But there was a guy that would come out and grab a girl's butt. He would play with their hair. He would wave. People would catch him on camera waving, full-bodied apparition. He became a very friendly and playful spirit after that.
Mm-hmm.
But
I mean, even what you say doesn't sound like it doesn't sound like to me because I don't like you. Nothing. I've knock on wood. I've never encountered anything, on that negative side of stuff. You know what I mean? So for me, even screams, I've heard like screams before. Right. At Pennhurst, I've heard it at other places at Rolling Hills in New York. So that and then scratch. I mean, for me, I always say that I always use the comparison like Patrick Swayze. When he's in the subway in the movie Ghost and he's trying to kick the can and he's not happening. And then he uses all of his energy and the can goes flying across the subway. If I'm standing at the other end of that, I'm going to go, oh my God, a ghost just tried to hit me in the head with a can. You know what I mean?
It's got to be a demon. Yeah.
Right. So like, all I think is like, when private homes, a lot of times they'll try pushing me down the steps. Listen, you can't see it. If it wanted to push you down the steps, you'd be going down the steps.
Mm-hmm.
So here, just like they're just trying to get your attention, and you're not.
Yeah.
So then they go, So I think stuff like that. It's all about perception and how it comes across to people. But I think it's awesome that the energy did flip.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys. I mean, that's a great thing that happened, and now people won't continue because I think people when they know that stuff, and then they go there thinking that they're going to be getting that. Kind of feeds into it and it could get worse. So it's good that you guys did that.
Absolutely. And like I say, I mean, it did. I mean, it was very, very heavy and, oppressive feeling in that area of the building. And it was getting worse and worse and worse until Denise did that. And then it just completely flipped 180.
That's awesome.
But getting back to Fort Duffield.
Yeah.
I took T-Dog and a few members of his team up there, and I sent you these pictures earlier.
Okay, here we go.
And, the first, if you got the wider angle where you can see Denise and I in the picture.
All right, ready?
Sure.
Bear with me. All right. Let me see. Present. Oh, wait. First, let me go. All right, so you want me to show the one?
The wider angle where you can see Denise and I standing there on the wall.
Can you see my screen right now or no?
I see you.
Okay. That's okay. Now I gotta come back here, share screen. I'm learning how to do this.
Trust me, I have not learned how to do it yet. Every time I try, I just get a blank screen, or it's me. You see me, it looks like an old man taking a selfie, you know. I'm like that, you know. That's what you see.
A share system. Let me see. Entire screen or window? Share.
Window.
Maybe I want window.
Yeah.
To the window, to the wall.
Oh, don't get Leanne and Denise started. They'll sing the rest of that.
All right. Window. Here we go. I hope that's the right picture.
There's
okay. Oh my God.
What the heck is it doing?
All right, hold on.
You got this, Taryn. I know you can do it. I'm behind you 100%.
Share screen. Share screen. Does anybody tell me? All right, hold on.
Nobody's helping over here in the chat. Everybody's just laughing.
They are laughing, right?
Comments.
That's not the one I want to. That's not the one I want to. Because it doesn't see. It's not recognizing Facebook. So hold on.
Yeah, you got to save it, I think, individually, and.
Oh, I have it saved. Hold on.
Then open it like in photos.
What's happening?
I don't know what that was. Nobody said shh this time.
I know. Hold on. We're going to get there.
We'll get it. I'm patient.
I saved it. Ernie, where are you? Here you are.
I'm right here.
All right. All right. Now
this time for sure.
Yeah. All right. Share screen. Sorry, everybody. Can you see it?
There we go. All right. Now, if you look at that, that's Denise and myself. We're talking to T-Dog and a couple members of his team. Carrie Doran from Riverbend Paranormal, Indiana, took this picture. And what is going to be zoomed in on with the next picture, I hope, if she can share it. I don't know.
Is that the one where you said you cleared it up real good or whatever?
I cleaned it up and it lost some resolution, but
yep.
There's a figure that is when you see the original on a good, clear, high definition screen, it is a Civil War soldier. It's a Union soldier with a knapsack in his back. He's got a rifle slung across his shoulder. He's even got a long coat on. And
you're talking about like in this area?
Yeah, it's right there in the middle of that area you're circling right now.
All right. So do you want me to show the other one?
Go ahead and show the zoomed in version.
I got to zoom in. All right. Let me see. Hold on. Can you see it okay? Right here, right?
There's nothing. Yeah, nothing's changed.
Oh.
Still seeing the other picture.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe I gotta.
I think you got to close that one and then open the other one in a new window and share.
Oh, I got it.
I think. Did you freeze? She froze. So I'm here. Is it me or you? Look at that look you got.
Only me. I'm like, really? I'm like, oh, I got it.
I got it. Let me make the ugliest face I can make and then freeze.
Oh my God. Was it? It was bad, wasn't it?
It was okay. It's all right.
All right. Hold on. All right. Here we go. Whew.
It happens.
Oh, all right. You see it now?
Yeah, there. That's a little better. It's still tough to see in this because it's been zoomed in so much.
What if I go back a little bit?
That's okay. It's still it's not
See the
nearly as
legs
clear as it is in. Yeah, there's the legs.
right here.
He's got a long coat on. It's hard to see on there, but I mean, in the original, you can see he's got a pack on his back and he's got a rifle slung across his back, and he's walking down the hill.
I definitely see. I see the legs there for sure.
Yeah.
And I see this whole thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And like I say, this T-Dog sent us this picture before we even knew that the place was haunted because we had not done an investigation there yet. We had just gotten the rights to start doing investigations up there. And we took him up there as broad daylight, and Carrie was just taking random pictures. And the next day, T-Dog sent us this picture, and we were like, whoa. Because, the original picture is a lot, it's been shared a lot. It's been altered by different people and then sent back to us and this kind of thing. And it's losing resolution now.
I see it clearer now. Like I have it back a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, that looks so cool. That is so cool.
Yeah.
Looks like he almost has like a longer coat on.
Yeah. You're over to the left with the cursor there.
I'm doing it here.
There's a long coat. Yeah, there he is. And then
there's actually two cursors on my screen right now. And I was looking at the other one. I don't know why there's two.
That's crazy. But yeah, he's walking down the hill. And what we recently found out, they had a meeting or a dinner for the volunteers at Fort Duffield. And I talked to the guy that was like the original historian for Friends of Fort Duffield. And showed him that picture, and he said, well, that is exactly where the guy fell and shot the guy walking behind him as they were walking down the hill.
Stop it.
So is that the guy that got shot and killed walking down the hill? He said that's exactly where it happened.
Wow. And I wonder if he's like trying to like communicate to say it wasn't an accident. And it wasn't by who you think it's by, because why would his own guy like really? I mean, you know what I mean? Like that might have been the story that was told.
Yeah, I'll go back to a little bit. 1860, the winter of 1861 into 1862 in Kentucky was one of the harshest winters on record up to that point, and it was sloppy. When it wasn't snowing, it was muddy, and that hill, you can't tell from that picture, but it's a really steep hill going down right there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very easy to picture somebody just slipping and falling walking down that hill. And like I say, these were young guys that didn't know how to, or didn't necessarily think to let the hammer down on their rifle when they're marching or moving around with it. And very well could have been that he just fell and the gun discharged and killed his buddy behind him. That was the story, that's historically how it's in the records.
Yeah.
Is what happened. And I have no reason to really doubt it other than the fact that that guy showed up in that picture. But he could be showing up in that picture just because he wants to be acknowledged more.
Absolutely. Was anything going on at that time?
No, like I say, we were just walking around, showing them around the fort, showing them. I mean, if you look at the broader picture where I'm standing, I'm standing there like this. I said, the enemy would be coming from that direction. They would have guards up here on the wall, watching for Confederates coming up the hill from the bottom. And she's just snapping random pictures And
See, that's when you get it. Like that's when I got the soldier picture of mine and from Gettysburg.
yeah,
I
and,
was
and
taking
that's incredible.
pics.
Yeah.
I think that's like the best. When you don't expect, it's just like when you're doing EVPs and stuff, and you're
Exactly. If you're just sitting around talking about,
yeah.
Where are we going for breakfast when we get out of here? And, then you hear somebody over here say biscuits or whatever, somebody that's not there.
Yeah.
But,
So you're close to the cemetery, you're close to Fort Duffield and a Ditto house. Like, and I mean, have you ever been in the places where you've caught what you think might be the same entity or the same spirit?
not here. There are several locations in town. See, the town and the fort are very closely connected. Our house was a Civil War hospital. A lot of the people who got sick on the hill at the fort were brought down here to be treated. I mean, the fort, I can literally see it from my front porch. It's right up on the hill across from the house. And this was an overflow hospital. There was a larger hospital about 3 doors down from us. But when it got full, those who were sick or injured, whatever, would be brought to our house. And so we get a lot of Civil War activity here in our house, Civil War soldiers. There's an African-American gentleman that we see in our house a lot that has been described as being seen over at the cafe.
Interesting.
About 300 yards that way from where I'm sitting. And
so close. I mean, it's close.
Yeah. So it's this whole town is really haunted. I mean, there's a lot of activity around here, and I think a lot of it is tied together, with the Civil War history, the Indian massacres that occurred in this area, and just some of the other tragedies that have happened around here. There's been a lot.
Yeah. You sent me another picture.
Okay. This is the lady in white. And in your intro, the very first thing in your intro with the lady walking through the trees.
Yeah.
That is what we were seeing exactly.
Oh.
I took this picture.
Oh, interesting.
So everybody is familiar with her intro, that very first entity that you see walking through the trees, the lady in white.
All right, this is cool. Hold on. But why is it so small here? Ugh.
I've got a gnat buzzing around my camera here, and it's driving me crazy.
See the picture. All right, let's just see.
See if it shows up. Maybe you'll need to zoom in on it. I don't know.
I'm getting good at this.
Yeah.
Getting good at this.
Yeah. Now, right there in the middle of the screen, that was the best image I could catch because she was moving through the trees pretty quick. I snapped several pictures and only caught her out in the open where the moonlight was hitting her that one time. I was trying to catch her, I kept taking pictures, and she'd be back in the shadows, and then she'd come out in the moonlight and you could see her. I finally caught that image. Admittedly, it's not a very clear image, but I'm telling you, there was an entire group of us up there watching her move through the trees, and there was no one over there.
So I got to tell you, so this what you caught, I have seen with my eyes and didn't catch in Gettysburg. So at the tree line, right? There's also another video that came out from Gettysburg where a family had videotaped
with the old VCR camera. Yeah.
And you hear them saying like, what is that? And they're like, where's that, honey? They have like an accent.
Yeah.
And you can see them. I'm getting chills thinking about it.
Yeah, that's a great video.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what we were seeing. She was moving from
I believe it because
she was moving from right to left, and just going very slowly. It looks like she's off the ground because you see the moonlight hitting the ground in front there. It looks like she's hovering. Well, she wasn't hovering. It's just that's where the moonlight was actually hitting the ground there and lit up that area down below where she's at.
Mm-hmm.
If you know what I'm saying. I mean, she's kind of on a hillside a little bit back in the trees.
Yeah.
And
yeah, you're saying here?
Yeah. Yeah. And
see there, guys.
If somebody sent me an enhanced photo of that and I can't find it, or I'd have sent it to you, where they had adjusted the contrast and everything, and you can actually see like a face, and you can get some color out of the face and everything, and you can see a little bit more detail on it. But that's my original picture, just sent to you as I got it,
Wow.
But like I say, I mean, I kept trying to get picture. I was snapping, and boom, at one point I caught her.
That's cool. And see, and that's the thing. Like you never know. It's 20 years I've been doing it. I got one apparition photo.
Yeah.
One.
It's not easy to do. I mean, people talk about that with cryptids and stuff, like, well, if you've seen so many Bigfoot, how come you don't have a good Bigfoot picture or whatever? Well, for one, that's not the first thing on your mind when you see something like that, whether it's a spirit or a Bigfoot. The first thing on your mind is not, oh, I got to get a picture. It's, oh my God, that's awesome. Look at it, and you just want to see it and take it in.
Yeah. The first time, like I saw something one time in Gettysburg. Again, I go to Gettysburg a lot. So therefore I have a lot of experiences in Gettysburg, but I was literally watching a shadow thing. Like, first, I thought it was a blackbird, because I feel like your mind automatically tries to make some type of sense of it, right? Like, so I'm like, why is there a bird flying in that bush? And I'm like, well, the bush isn't moving, and then by the time you figure out what it is, it's over with. I had like 2 cameras around my neck. I'm like, what am I looking at? Then I realized, I was like, holy shit. Like, that was
a picture of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I was like, so, I mean, I get it. Like, it's tough. And
it's just a brief moment in time when our world and their world collides, and we have that opportunity.
Yeah.
And usually, like I say, if you're not sitting there just randomly taking pictures like Carrie did in that full-bodied apparition photo, it's very difficult to catch it.
You guys should put those like trap cams out there.
Yeah.
That would work. That would be cool.
Yeah, we've got some trail cams up there for security purposes.
Right.
But
does anything ever come up on the security cameras?
What's that?
Does anything ever come up on the security cameras?
I've not talked to the guy that watches them. He's kind of a skeptic in the first place. I'm sure he would try to make sense of it as, oh, well, I was probably just a coyote or whatever,
Yeah.
But he's never told me that they've caught anything that looked, paranormal.
Have you ever come across anything that was cryptid-ish?
Absolutely. Yes. Do you know who Greg Bakken is?
I might.
He does Ghost Box Radio. It's a radio show out of Minneapolis. He's been to a lot of the cons and stuff. Him and Char Savoy came to visit us and stayed here at the house. We took him up to the fort. He had never had a Bigfoot encounter in his life. Neither had Char. They were both believers. We were up there to show him spirit activity. We had not had a Bigfoot encounter up there, so we're up there to show him spirit activity. We were standing in the memorial cemetery looking down toward the mass grave, and it was a full moon, and a very large, hairy creature walks out of the woods on 2 legs into the moonlight and just stands there and stares at us. And nobody said anything. There were, me, Denise, Char, Greg, and Char's wife, Kim. We all just, we all raise our hands and point at the same time.
I ran, just so you know.
No.
I've been out.
We didn't. We just were like, oh my goodness, and then it walked back into the woods, and we all were like, what did you see? Well, what did you see? We wanted somebody else to confirm what we had seen, and we all saw the same thing. I mean, you could see the moonlight glistening off a tear. I
And
mean,
what happened? So it stood there and then it just like ran off.
it walked out, stood there for just a maybe 10-15 seconds, and then walked back into the woods. Um, there was another time
It ran so fast. I would have left you guys in the dust. I'm not even kidding. I've been out.
last Labor Day weekend, I had a group up there on a private overnight, and it was the same night that I caught the apparition, the lady in white, and they were up there on a private overnight, and they're a fairly new team, and they told me, they said, if you want to hang out with us, we'd appreciate it, because we respect you and we know you've done a lot. And so I was like, sure. So anyway, at one point in the night, me and Chad Cummings, one of the guys in the group, started walking up the hill, and we started seeing movement over kind of in the same area where I caught that lady in white, but it was a little bit closer to us. And so we both stopped and looked, and then this thing comes out of the darkness into the moonlight, and it's about a 7 to 8 foot tall hairy beast. Okay, Bigfoot. And it walks down over the hill, and we both of us are just, again, with our mouths agape, just pointing as it's walking down over the hill back into the woods. And we turn to look at each other, and there's 4 other people from his team back there doing the same thing. They had come up the hill behind us because they saw that we were obviously seeing something, and they had seen it too. And we were like, okay, so that's happening. They're not. I the first time I had a real up close encounter was on that live stream that I told you about, that Denise and I had, where we had to come up with a team name.
Right.
And the live stream was called Ghost Hunters Meet Bigfoot. They sent us out there with some Bigfooters into a place that's notorious for Bigfoot sightings. And, we were going to ghost hunt. They were going to Bigfoot hunt and see if we had Bigfoot activity, they had ghost activity, and vice versa, And
Denise's name was before that.
Well, that was not a up close sighting, though, Denise. That other time, well, he was close, but we couldn't see him when he was close. She's trying to correct me in the chat. What I'm talking about, the Bigfoot forest person, walks out into the middle of this road that goes up through the woods toward an old cemetery, just a dirt road, and stands there, walks back into the edge of the woods, walks back out in the road, looks at us, and then we start hearing this chirping sound from over to our right, and then back behind us we hear whoop whoop back here, and then he goes back off in the woods, and you can hear him going through the woods, just walking through the woods.
Huge.
And we're yeah. He was at least 8 foot tall, I would say.
Oh my God, I would have peed my pants.
That one was not as bulky as what you would think of a Bigfoot being. It was tall, but not as wide and massive as you would imagine one to be. And, we've been told by Bigfoot people, because we weren't Bigfoot people then. Now we're into it more because we've had these encounters. But we've been told that was probably a juvenile. That's why he wasn't so big, and that's probably why we saw him.
8 foot ain't big.
What's that?
8 foot is big. I'm only 5'3", so 8 foot's big.
I'm 6 feet tall. Denise is like 5'8", 5'9".
Yeah, I'm only 5'3", so
we're not small people, but he was taller than us, but he was not massively built, like overly muscular or anything like that. And but anyway, he walks off. We realize that we got one over here in the woods, obviously, and one back behind us that we got to walk past to get back to the camp. And so that happened. Then about 2 months later, we were on another live stream, and we're at a place they call the Gates of Hell. It's Casey Cemetery. And we hear this thing running up through the woods toward us on 2 legs. I mean, it was like coming up the hill toward us. I had a 45 on me that time because that previous time I was wishing I had a gun on me,
Mm-hmm.
That time I had my 45. I stepped back behind the van and pulled the 45 like this. And when I look down range, what do I see? Denise's back.
Oh my God.
Down the hill toward it.
Wait, she was going towards it?
Yes.
Woo!
She's not right. She's not right in the head. And I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, what are you
doing?
On her team. What we're here for? And I'm like, that thing is big. So, but then shortly after that, we met a man by the name of Greg Yost. They call him Squatch Man. And he has spent the better part of 20 years or more research, I guess, experiencing the forest people and communicating with them even in a weird way. And he has taught us that they're not vicious unless you are aggressive toward them.
Right.
And he's taught us not to take a gun in the woods because then they might be aggressive toward you. And we've had other experiences that are nothing short of epic, really, out there with him.
It sounds it. I mean, I was watching a live the other night, and this came up 2 things. One, would you shoot if you saw one? Would you shoot? And because I wouldn't. I can't kill a houseplant, let alone kill something just for because somebody was saying, you would make history, right? If you actually shot a Bigfoot and this is, came out of it. I mean, you would be like,
oh yeah,
I mean, how else do they have research for other things? These were all the points that people were making up. You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, but if it's not aggressive, how do you just shoot it? You know what I mean? I couldn't do it.
And if it's primarily an energy being or a spirit of the forest, would it do you any good to shoot at it anyway?
True.
And I believe they pretty much are. What's that?
Is forest people just the name you call, or is that a thing in your area you call them?
That's what Squatch Man calls them.
Okay.
Out of respect, because he
really
doesn't like calling him a Bigfoot. He doesn't like calling him a Sasquatch. He definitely doesn't believe that they're a North American primate or anything like that, any kind of missing link thing. He thinks that they are far more than that. They are, a basically spirit of the forest that's there to protect nature.
Interesting, which would explain a lot of the questions that are unexplained, like how come we don't find bones? How come, this and that? I mean, because that's the biggest question, how come there's never...
If they're an animal, you would. If they were an animal with all the drones, I mean, there's been so many sightings that are credible sightings and all of this stuff. With all of the technology we have today, why don't we have a better video than that one that was taken by Patterson and Gimlin in 1967?
Right.
If they were just an animal.
Yeah.
They're not just an animal. Right. They know if you got a camera on them. And they'll cloak and you won't see them. I mean, I firmly believe that. It might sound crazy to a lot of people, but
listen. I mean, I don't for me, I don't believe Bigfoot, but I don't believe that he couldn't exist. Do you know
that's where I was until I had that first encounter.
Right. And I get it. I'm not saying that I believe, but I'm not saying that I couldn't ever believe that the possibility is out there. Anything is possible. I mean, let's be honest, anything is possible.
You've been doing this for a long time, just like I have.
Yeah, for sure.
You have seen so many things that aren't supposed to exist that society tells you don't exist.
Yes.
That it's hard to deny the possibilities of anything.
Absolutely.
I mean, if I went to Ireland and saw a damn leprechaun at the end of a rainbow with a pot of gold, I'd be like, well, I'll be damned, it is real. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, it would be a long day.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to say anything is impossible because
Right.
I've seen so many things that I always thought were impossible until I experienced them.
Absolutely. I agree with you. I mean, and that's the beauty of it. Like I actually am going on it's the Pennsylvania Bigfoot camping adventure. And and you know, I signed up for it. We got a cabin. It's in September, and there's like a Bigfoot hike on a Friday
Mhm.
night. I signed up for the Bigfoot hike, but I did tell everybody that
You're going to run.
I will run. I will run. Just so everybody knows
Say that.
where I stand. You guys, if I see with my own eyes, it's good enough for me. I'm out.
Right. Right.
I'm not going to stick around for it. But I definitely, like I said, I wouldn't shoot it. Unfortunately, that would be, even science would be able to study it and learn about them, and that's like
If they were an animal, yeah.
right. But I couldn't do it.
No. We're going to be speaking September 26th at the Indiana Bigfoot Research Organization's first ever convention.
Oh, cool.
And, it's kind of funny, but the reason that Pac-Man Paranormal came about, actually, the reason we had to come up with a name and call ourselves Pac-Man Paranormal was because of that encounter that Denise was talking about earlier at Crybaby Holler. I reported that to a friend of mine who does a radio show, a very, very, very large radio show that's worldwide syndicated, and had a friend at the time. She was a friend at the time that was one of the hosts of that, or hostesses. And I told her about our experience, and she wanted to get us on a live stream to do this Bigfoot or Ghost Hunters Meet Bigfoot thing. And so she said, we got to have a name. And I was like, okay, we're Pac-Man Paranormal. So Pac-Man Paranormal came about because of Bigfoot.
Yeah.
But we were ghost hunters. We were
Yeah.
not Bigfooters. We weren't believers.
Yeah.
Until
Do you find that the way that they research Bigfoot and the way you research the ghosties, if you will, I'll just use that. Do you find that there are similar ways, or are they completely different?
We do pretty much exactly the same thing, Bigfoot hunting, as we do when we're ghost hunting.
Okay.
We go out there, we talk to them. We say hello, and we'll say hello if we're with Squatchman, especially. Hello, forest people. It's Ernie and Denise. We would love to talk with you or see you or hear you, experience you in some way. We'll put out mel meters, REM pods, all those things, and they'll interact with them just like spirits will.
Interesting.
Now, the people that go out like they're hunting an animal and they put trail cams out, they got their FLIR cameras out and all this stuff, do they ever catch anything? No.
Yeah.
No. If they did, we'd see it, right? It'd be all over the internet. It'd be all over Facebook, whatever. YouTube. You don't see that. You know why? Because they're hunting an animal. It's not an animal. It's a spirit of the forest, basically. And so we approach it like we're talking to a spirit.
Because a lot of people also believe, I found that some people, and I don't know if you do, but like a lot of people believe that they're interdimensional. That's why they come and go. But, that's still, I still like the idea of it being a spirit of the forest, or a spirit, or a forest person, how you say it that way. Like,
yeah.
I mean, that sounds so much better, actually. So I actually respect that whole thought process behind that. I think that's great.
Yeah, that's going to be my speech at this Bigfoot convention, because most of those people are what in the Bigfoot community, they call apers. They believe they're some kind of undiscovered primate or ape. That's what they think they are. And I think that's why
so much more. There would be so many more.
Exactly. That's why they're not finding them, because they're looking for an animal.
Yeah.
They are not an animal. You need to change your approach and see what you find then. Look for a spirit of the forest. Communicate with them like they're a spirit, not like an animal.
Do you do more? Do you do more Bigfoot hunting or more ghost hunting?
Nowadays, I prefer it's a lot more relaxing. Okay, let me put it this way. We do a lot of paranormal events now, public events, where you're introducing new people to the paranormal. You're demonstrating the equipment to them. You're teaching them all of this. When we go in the forest to look for the forest people, we're just basically hiking in the woods or sitting around a campfire, and it's a lot more relaxing. If that makes any sense at all.
No, yeah, for sure.
Well, look at this guy.
Also, too, you said there's like that Indian native connection as well. So I wonder if that also helps to kind of maybe tie in, especially since you view it as a spirit of the, like a forest person, like a spirit of the forest. Like, I wonder if that helps to tie into it being so strong and being, you guys are seeing it so much and having these encounters. You know what I mean?
I do. I think that has a lot to do with it. And I think that, I always used to tell groups when they would come to Waverly, I would say, what you put into this is going to be what is directly relative to what you're going to get out of it. If you come in with an open mind, a positive attitude, and, no negative thoughts, you're going to get a lot more out of it. And the spirits are going to be a lot more likely to want to talk to you, because who wants to talk to some negative Nilly anyway,
Right.
And I think it's the same way with the forest people. If you go out there and you're just having a good time, you're respecting the forest, you're putting out your fire, you're not littering, you're not out there killing animals, and I'm not some tree hugger. Trust me, I used to deer hunt.
No.
I'm a normal human, okay? Or normal red-blooded Kentuckian. I'll put it that way.
But you got my moonshine.
But it's just the attitude that you bring has a direct bearing on what you're going to get out of the experience, whether it's with Bigfoot or spirits. And so I mean, like Denise said earlier, we're about 50-50 now. I mean, this weekend, Todd and Leanne are coming up from Tennessee, and we're going to go up in the forest with Squatch Man and hang out in the forest. We're not doing any ghost hunting. I mean, they'll be staying here at our house, which is the most haunted house in Kentucky. So we'll do some ghost hunting when we're here. But when we're up there in the forest, it's going to be all about the forest people.
Because I'm a little scared of the woods, to be honest with you.
I spiders. That's the only thing I'm really scared of.
I'm a little scared of the woods. Like, people, like when Blair Witch came out and the people found out it was fake and they were like, that sucks, it's fake. I was like, no, it's still one of the scariest movies ever. Like, getting lost in the woods like that, and then, God forbid, like movies like Chernobyl Diaries, like with the crazy people in the wood, like ruined it for me. I'm telling you, I call it wrong term people. So like I watched like 5 seconds.
Well, Denise is from West Virginia, so I'm used to dealing with that.
Oh.
He's gonna
the only woods I can comfortably go in is Gettysburg. Like, I totally trust those woods. Other than that, although I have heard that people have claimed to have heard, I'll use your verbiage, but forest people howls and growls and like sounds and stuff like that in the hills in Gettysburg. You know what I mean?
I mean, that's very possible. I mean, I think that there's a strong tie. I think that, some of these locations, there's a geographic element to it. There's a geologic element to it. There's You
Yeah.
know, I mean, because like, I think you talked about it with Todd and Leanne last week. Certain areas just have the trifecta. They'll have the UFO activity, they'll have the Bigfoot activity, and the spirit activity.
Yeah.
And Gettysburg seems to be one of those places.
Yeah, for sure. I think it has a lot to do with like ley lines and
Exactly.
all kinds of stuff. And I mean, who knows, right? It's the universe. Anything is possible. I mean, look at Skinwalker Ranch. I mean, explain that. That stuff
Yeah,
is
they got everything going on
how
there.
do you explain that? Any of it. It's just odd. All
Oh,
odd stuff. I'm sure there's stuff out there that can, but you can't make sense of all the stuff that happens out there,
no, no.
you know?
I always tell people that don't believe in whatever it is, whether you don't believe in Bigfoot, you don't believe in UFOs, you don't believe in ghosts, whatever it is. Wouldn't it be a boring life to think that this three-dimensional world that we see
Is it
is it? And you're born, you live for a short period of time, and then you die, and that's the end.
right? Don't
Maybe
leave out
go
thinking you
to
work your entire life.
the sky, whatever.
Stupid.
I mean,
Yeah.
that would be boring. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Oh no, I agree. I agree. And that's the thing, and here's the other thing I like to say too is like, we as humans have to label everything, right? So who knows, if there even is a difference in the phenomena or the supernatural stuff that we all or the paranormal stuff how do we know UFO isn't a Bigfoot? It's just a different version of it. People have different versions, fish have different versions,
Right.
whatever, you know what I'm saying? So who knows? Like we honestly don't know what
Yeah.
what we're experiencing, but we're trying.
Right. Well, it's like I say, like I was telling you, we use our ghost hunting equipment to communicate with the forest people. And we think that we're communicating with the forest people because that's our intent. Intent has a lot to do with a lot of things like Ouija boards and all that good stuff. But our intent is to communicate with the forest people. And then when we get communication, we just assume it's the forest people. Who's to say it's not an alien or a leprechaun or, whatever else? You know what
Or
I
a
mean?
Native American
Native
spirit,
American spirit, or just, spirit of someone that, died hiking in the forest and, whatever.
yeah,
Who
or a
knows?
soldier, or who knows? Who
Right.
knows? Who knows?
But I mean, that's why we keep doing what we do, to try to find some answers to what those things are. And that's why it will always be fascinating to me, because every time I think I get an answer, all that does is open up another plethora of questions for the next time out,
Yeah. One more question before plug everything away you got coming up and everything. But being in such an area that has such a magnetic draw for, supernatural or whatever, have you guys ever had any personal experiences, meaning loved ones or anything like family members or something like that was able to pull through just because that magnetic pull is there? You know what I mean?
Yeah. We've experienced Denise's grandmother, who passed a few years back, several times. Denise has had, of course, more encounters with her than I have, but just in the, I guess, 4 years that we've been together, a little over 4 years that we've been together, the two of us have experienced her a few times. I have heard my dad call my name a few times. I felt my dad, and I know it was my dad because, I mean, it was the same feeling that I would get, but felt a hand on my shoulder, just kind of squeezed my shoulder at a real trying time when I was trying to think of,
That's
what's the right thing to do. And, I felt his hand on my shoulder, and, so yeah, I've experienced family members coming through. I try not to seek them out, because I like to keep my experiences doing this as fun and enjoyable and not sad. If that makes any sense. Now, sometimes the stories that come through from spirits will bring you to tears. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've broken down telling Sarah's story, the story of that nurse.
Yeah.
At Waverly Hills. I mean, in front of tour groups, 30, 40 people in front of me. And I've choked up and started crying, telling that story.
Right.
Because, I mean, I have like we said earlier, I have a passion for this. And these are people that need to be remembered and honored.
And I'm sure the more you get to know the history and get to know the people and their personal histories and your research, I mean, you're finding this information out, you do feel a connection.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that totally makes sense. And I love that. I love that about you guys, that you guys are so passionate about the history too, and helping keeping that alive as well.
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
So 1, where can people find you guys? 2, what do you got coming up? And 3, how can people, like, what's the story of as far as people being able to, if any groups are watching and want to investigate Fort Duffield and all?
All right. Well, we've got Pac-Man Paranormal page and group on Facebook. We've also got Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, but we don't use those nearly as much as we do Facebook. So if you want to find us, come to Facebook, Pac-Man Paranormal page or group. We also have a Facebook group, Hauntings of Fort Duffield, just like it is on the screen there. We've got a page for our house. It's called The Real Ditto House Inn, 1841. We don't have any openings right now to book. We do open up a few bookings at the house from time to time. We don't have any openings right now, but keep checking that page. We might be opening some more. Who knows? Or you can just look for me, Ernie Pack, on Facebook. I'll respond to anybody that messages me that's not trying to scam me. And if you want to book the fort, reach out to me. My phone number is on the Facebook group for Hauntings of Fort Duffield. But I'll tell you right now, it's 502-376-7240. And just reach out to me directly by phone call or text, and I'll see what we have available and get you set up. Right now, we've got on April 20th, we've got one of our public events up at the fort. We call them Spirits, Squatches, and Stories Around the Campfire. I think Taryn has the ad for that, but I'm not going to press her to put it up because, I'm not, no pressure, Taryn.
We're going to do it. We are going to do it now that I know how to do this.
She's figured it all out.
Here we go. Oh.
Nope.
You got it. Yep.
She's got this, folks. I have faith in her.
Boom.
There it is. Spirits, Squatches, and Stories Around the Campfire. It's going to be Saturday, April 20th from 7 p.m. till 2 a.m. We'll start out at the pavilion at Fort Duffield. We'll have a cookout and just kind of hang out, meet and greet everybody. And then we'll go up to the fort. We'll build a bonfire up there. We'll sit around the fire and we'll tell stories. People will be welcome to investigate if they would like, or you can just hang out and we'll tell stories all night. That's usually what winds up happening, to be honest. But we're going to have special guests with us this time. Beth Allen of the Black Wolf Paranormal and Solon Blaze. She's going to be up there. She's going to be offering readings for anyone that would like a reading, a tarot reading, or just a reading in general for a small fee. I don't know exactly what she's going to charge, but I'm sure she'll give you a good deal on that. And Beth is one of the best that I've ever encountered at that. And then Todd and Leanne Eskew of the Black Wolf Paranormal, the T-Dog, Tim Coomer. I always say Coomer. It's Tim Coomer of Riverbend Paranormal, Indiana. He's going to be there with us. And the one and only Squatch Man, Greg Yost, is going to be there telling his epic encounters with the forest people and telling you a little bit about his philosophy on the forest people.
That's awesome.
And like I say, we just all sit around the fire. We all stand up, take our turn telling stories. We invite the guests, if they have any paranormal stories, to get up and tell their own story. We give them a tour of the fort if they want it. We'll let them
How many
investigate.
tickets are being sold? Do you know how many people are?
50 tickets right now. We're just at we've opened it up to 50 tickets because we were thinking that we might have a big group of people. There's going to be a bike race up there that weekend. We were thinking there might be a group of people from the bike club that wanted to buy tickets. So we expanded. Normally we only sell like 20 tickets. We've already sold close to 20.
Good. That's awesome.
But we've got room for like 30 more folks if anybody would like to join us on that. And I'm telling you, those are a good time. I mean, all of us, everybody you see on that screen there, myself, Denise, Beth. Well, Beth hasn't been to one yet, but Todd and Leanne, T-Dog hasn't been to one yet. Squatchman's been before. We love putting those on as much as we love going anywhere else to investigate or anything, because we have a good time with the guests. We have a great time.
That's awesome.
Everybody that's been to one has come back for more. So
it sounds like fun, for sure.
It is.
That's awesome. Well, is there anything that we didn't talk about so wait, I would have had a question though too. So Fort Duffield, is there a place to stay nearby for people when they come out there to investigate the fort?
The fort is in West Point, Kentucky. There's a couple of Airbnbs in town that are real close to the fort. But Fort Duffield is about 15 minutes from Waverly Hills. It's about the other direction. It's about 15 minutes from Radcliffe, Kentucky. There's several motels in Radcliffe, Kentucky, and Fort Knox and Elizabethtown, which is just right down the highway. So you can get a place to stay within 20, 25 minutes easily.
Okay, awesome. That sounds great. And then what are the hours for the fort?
The hours, if you do a private investigation at the fort, the hours are from 7 p.m. until 7 a.m., but the fort is open to the public during daylight hours. So if there's daylight hours between those hours, you might have other people around. But once it gets dark, we lock the gate, we run everybody off, and it's all yours during nighttime hours. I thought about just changing that, and I'm going to talk to Denise and the city about just changing it from dusk till dawn, because that would make it a lot easier. We still get people up there a little bit early so that they can see their way around during the daylight hours and see the fort layout during the daylight, and then they have all night, and that way they're not overlapping with the hikers and bikers that might come through.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That does sound good. That does sound like a good idea, from dusk till dawn.
And one other thing.
Yeah.
Sunday night, you can catch me and Denise on the Get Haunted Network, 8 p.m. Eastern time. We do a podcast on there. We usually have a special guest. This week, we're going to have Greg Bakken, who I mentioned earlier from Ghost Box Radio. But we got a lot of great guests lined up for down the road. I mean, Greg's a great guest. I didn't mean to make it sound like, but we got,
I know.
we've got a lot of great guests lined up. And it's going to be a good time. We always have fun. We have a lot of interaction. We're very interactive with the people in the chat. I mean, they kind of direct the show with their questions and comments. And
absolutely.
We do it a lot like you do. We're not scripted or anything like that. We're not sitting there going, so what's your favorite piece of equipment? What's the scariest thing you've ever had happen? We just talk. We just have a conversation. So it's a good time.
Yeah.
But
awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and thank you for sharing Fort Duffield. And please, everybody, please go like and subscribe and follow and get out there to I'm going to make a trip out to Kentucky. There's like a couple places I want to go.
Say when. Let us know when you're coming.
I would love to come
might
out.
be able to hook you up with a place to stay here when you're in town.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I could get haunted all night long, and then go up to the fort, get haunted, and go get haunted everywhere.
Exactly. You go. I mean, there's several locations within just a couple hours drive of here. I mean, several.
Yeah.
I mean, cave's not that far. You go down.
That's awesome. There's also I don't know how far it is. I don't know how big Kentucky is. But oh no, she's in Kansas, not Kentucky. See, I get it mixed up. Never mind.
Well, we've got Waverly Hills. We've got.
I'm just kidding.
Octagon Hall. We've got tons of them.
Oh, Octagon Hall would be cool.
Yeah, Octagon Hall is right down the highway from us, about an hour and 40 minutes, hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah, I've heard of Octagon Hall. That would be cool. Uh,
Todd and my wife are not nice to me.
oh,
They're not.
I'm sorry. They're having fun though, and that's the important thing,
Exactly.
right?
That's right.
All right. Well, I guess it's about that time. I appreciate you coming on. I have to go pack for my weekend. I'm going to Sweet Estates in New York. So this is a new place that we're investigating. Me and the Peaches. We're going to be investigating Sweet Estates. It's called. I kept calling it Sweet Escapes because it's I. But
thing anyway, doesn't it?
So we're gonna be going there this weekend. So I have to go pack for that, and but I want to say thank you so much for coming on, and when I'm in Kentucky, I'll definitely let you know if I'm coming to Kentucky for sure.
Sure.
That's a plane ride for me.
That's right.
But
well, we drive up to the bash, but whatever.
do you? How long does it take you?
It's about 13 hours, I think. 12, 13 hours. Might not be that long.
Literally, it would be probably 15 hours for me to drive there then, because I'm 2.5 hours from Gettysburg.
Oh, okay. All right.
Too far.
Well,
But I'll definitely see you guys at the bash.
Yep.
I'll
We
come
gotta
check you guys
hang
out.
out.
Sure.
You can't just like pass us at the restaurant and go, "Hey,
No, I won't.
you gotta buy me a biscuit or something."
Absolutely. All right.
I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for joining us in the chat. Everybody, you guys were great. Thank you so much. And share this out not for me, but share it out for my guests and the location and, all their information. That's why I want it shared out. I want it shared out for the people I have on, so their name gets out there and their stuff gets out there. So share it out for that. Thank you so much for coming on, Ernie. And stay in touch so much. Thank you.
Same to you.
All right, we'll see you soon. Sayonara, everybody. Till next week.